Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I'm your host, Jamil Payne, and with me, as always, is our own quarantine dancing queen, Amanda Coney. Amanda, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
so,
Doing what I can.
huh? Doing what
doing
you can?
doing doing what I can, which
Yes,
isn't a lot right now, but
I know. Yeah. So, today we are talking Miniature Jesus by Ted McKeever. But before we do, Amanda, there's some big news, especially something that I feel like that's related to us in some gentle way, because we did the whole series last year. Is that Audible is hiring a whole bunch of famous people to bring the first three volumes of Neil Gaiman's Sandman to life as an audio drama. So Amanda, as a person that loves Sandman, how do you feel about this news?
um, I mean, I'm always very interested in news around potential Sandman adaptations. It just, I mean, it happens a lot. We've had a few recently. I think the last one I can remember is Joseph Gordon-Levitt was going to do an anthology one.
Right.
Um, but anyways, I I only have one concern about what's been announced so far for uh, this newest version, um, and that's that they announced that Neil Gaiman is going to be the narrator. So first of all, there isn't a narrator in the comic.
Right.
And I understand that like an audio drama is structured a little differently and that it may be necessary to have a narrator for some parts. But I mean, kind of the fun of Sandman is sort of the ambiguity sometimes, and I wouldn't want it to be too. I'm not sure how ambiguous and dreamlike you can make just an audio drama with a narrator feel.
Okay.
Um, my other concern is that the last time that Neil Gaiman touched the Sandman universe was for the Overture, which was only 6 issues and came out over what, like 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
because he was late with everything. And it kind of added some stuff. Like, I mean, it kind of slightly changes your understanding of Morpheus's character arc, but like, it didn't really, like, I don't really know if Neil Gaiman has anything more that he needs to do with this world. I'm concerned with him coming back to it. Like, hey, don't you have any other ideas?
Ooh.
So that's my, that's my concern.
All right. So I'm just gonna read off this cast list,
Yeah.
and it's nuts. I remember when we did it, we were talking about on who could do it, and like none of these names came up, but they all seem perfect, right? So you have Riz Ahmed as the Corinthian, Kat Dennings as Death, which I think is perfect. Personally, I'll probably went with Arbery. No, Arbery Plaza's too. Like I always get them too confused for some reason. You know what I'm saying? But like, what I gotta remember is one is more depressing than the other. But Elton John himself, Taron Egerton as Constantine, Neil Gaiman as the narrator, Samantha Morton as who is she's playing? Urana Blackwell, BB Newworth as the Siamese cat, Andy Serkis as Matthew the Raven, and Michael Sheen as Lucifer, and of course James McAvoy as Morpheus. You know, if this was a movie, it'll be Oscar bait.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a damn good cast, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder because some of these people have like very major careers, like McAvoy and Egerton. I wonder, are they coming to this? because they actually love it as opposed to money.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure it pays, but I'm not for sure if it pays more than like what they make a movie. So, what do you think of this cast, Amanda?
I mean, I think it's a huge cast. I think you also need to remember that Neil Gaiman comes from the tradition of like British comic book writers,
Okay.
and a lot of this cast is British
Yes, a lot of it is.
or Scottish or otherwise is maybe even
You,
more familiar with Sandman because it's like British literature. Um, I say with like you can hear my eyes rolling as I say that. So I think that it's very, very likely that people are interested in this because they love the source material. And that was when Joseph Gordon-Levitt was talking about it, it was from a love of the source material. And the concern there was it was like he loves the source material so much, like he probably wouldn't be a good Morpheus, but he totally wants to be. So people were like, hey, like we maybe trust you to make this, but like this isn't fan fiction. Like you shouldn't be inserting yourself into this world. Um, no, that was a concern back then.
I think he would have been an okay Morpheus. I mean, he wouldn't have been my idea, but like he would have
yeah.
been okay. Like just like I I know you might cringe at this, but like I thought Keanu Reeves was an okay Constantine. Like you know what I'm saying? He wouldn't be
Oh
my
no,
first.
I liked him as Constantine.
Yeah, I think that movie is better than people give it credit for. I really do. Like especially like the ending with Lucifer. I think that's like really damn good.
Yeah.
Perfect person for Constantine in my opinion and as it leaves my head, what's his name? Uh, Minority Report, not Tom Cruise, but I want to say Will Ferrell, but no, not Will Ferrell. Damn it, Amanda, help me out.
Um, was Russell Crowe in that movie?
No, 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 shit. The one that had sex with Britney Spears. Don't ask me why I remember that, but this is gonna bother me. Hold on. That's why you have editing. That's why you have editing. Hold on.
I'm like, who else was even in Minority Report?
No, Russell
Colin
Crowe.
Farrell?
Colin Farrell. God damn it, that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Colin Farrell has the right attitude and swagger for John Constantine.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You just, you pay his hair blonde. I think that's Constantine. And of course, there's, Spike from Buffy, if you ever seen Buffy.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whose Spike is based after John Constantine. That came from Josh Whedon. So, yeah, that's a great cast. I can't wait. They're doing the first 3 volumes. So, Amanda, refresh my memory if you can. What are in those first 3 volumes? Is one of those the one with the pedophile convention?
Yes.
Oh well, I can't wait. Then that's exciting to
um,
see. That's something real weird that I can't wait for the pedophile convention. But you know what I'm saying? That
yeah, I
story, yeah.
think I think the first three covers the serial killer convention. Um,
Oh, it was a serial killer convention. I'm sorry, my bad.
yeah, it was just the one, and that's where we get sort of, you remember that point first of all because it was shocking, and also because that's where we get a little bit of like the weird like gray morality from the Corinthian,
Yes.
in that he's like a nightmare you've earned.
Mm.
Um, so like you remember that. We all remember that part. I think this is also where you get the doll's house. So you have like all of the weird people living in that apartment together. Um,
Yes.
and um, this isn't where, I mean, it's the same characters later, but this is not the point where they go like on the dream walk. That happens later, I think,
Okay.
like into Barbie's dream world.
Mm.
Um, but I think we get like a little hints of that.
Right.
Um, And I mean, also there is like the first volume is sort of that weird, like Morpheus has to go around and collect all of his stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we have like a Martian Manhunter cameo and like a John Constantine cameo and um, the was it Dr. Destiny um,
Yes.
in the diner. So there's a lot of setting stuff up for later in those first three. And I think that maybe the story with the Corinthian at the serial killer convention is the only one that has like a beginning, middle, and end within those 3 volumes. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe interesting to see like how much they actually get done with that.
What I'm hoping for is that this is a success and they can do the rest. And I hope they can bring this cast back together. But this seems like this is like a really expensive cast for like 10 volumes to keep. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah. Although I mean, like the Corinthian isn't in every volume,
That is true.
so maybe it's not that expensive to hire a famous guy to be the Corinthian for like a day of recording.
Right.
Um,
Cause yeah, I guess that part is relatively small. Okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, man. I guess the only other news. I mean, that's great news. I can't wait because I think because you don't listen to podcasts or audiobooks. I do. So even though I've read it, this is definitely something I would like. I would probably rebuy just to hear it, even though I know what's going to happen.
I mean, I would be very interested also. In part because I mean, Sandman's one of those things that you try to recommend to like everybody,
Right.
right? Once you've read it, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. You should read this. Um, but a lot of people are really like, no, I don't want to do a comic book. So having another option can be a really good, really helpful.
Yep. And I wonder if they're going to edit anything out or they're going to try to keep it as close as they can. Try to keep everything in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I guess the only other news, and I guess it's weird because you haven't caught up. I haven't either. But they're making Christopher Pike spot show basically with the
Yeah,
Enterprise 10 years before Kirk.
yeah. My understanding is that the so I watched the first season of Discovery, and then I knew that the second season involved the version of the Enterprise where Spock was science officer under Pike, and that we had the female number one, and that it all takes place before the menagerie or the cage.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, my understanding was that that Captain Pike was so popular that they were going to make a whole other Enterprise series set in that time, and that I guess maybe spoilers, the Discovery ended with them being thrown into the future or a different time period.
Oh, they were okay. I didn't know that. I just
Yeah,
thought.
so the third season of Discovery would no longer have opportunities for cheap cameos unless maybe it's Q or like the Time Police from the future or like Daniels from Enterprise or something. Um, so they're keeping. My understanding was that they're going to keep a series going in the time setting that they currently have, which probably lets them just keep reusing all of those sets and costumes.
Hmm.
And then that Discovery was going to keep going the other way.
So I'm of two minds about this.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's awesome. Like it's like like I've always wanted more of Pike. You know what I'm saying? Like because I think like you watch the Cage, right? And he's very different from Kirk, but I can't think of the actor's name, but I feel like he's just as good of a captain. You know what I'm saying? Just as good of an actor and captain as William Shatner is. And I've always wanted to see more of that. You know what I'm saying? Like and you see the Cage. The Cage is a little weird because originally it was the pilot episode that
Yeah.
they kind of made into this episode, and this is a little weird because Spot smiles a little bit in that, and that's always strange to see Spot smile. You know what I'm saying? So like it'll be nice to see like a younger Spock and a it'll be cool to see like an Enterprise show like this. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure it's gonna take place on the Enterprise, and like only thing that bothers me is like they already have a Spock, a live action Spock. Like now things are just getting muddy, in my opinion. Like we know Nimoy, God rest his soul, can do it forever, right? So he kind of passes to Zachary Quinto. That's awesome. So that's our Spock now. I think we all accepted that. I think we were all cool with that. But now you introducing a whole third guy as Spock while Quinto is still kind of
Mhm.
playing Spock. So I just think it's weird. I mean,
I mean, first of all, is Zachary Quinto really still playing Spock?
I I will hope so.
I mean, okay, I don't know if you appreciate this, but the first Star Trek movie with Zachary Quinto as Spock came out more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Like, to
Kurtz.
be honest, if they made another Star Trek movie right now, I don't even know if I would want that cast back. I mean, I loved that. I mean, I just rewatched that movie again and absolutely loved it. Despite Abrams underestimating the audience at every possible opportunity. But like, yeah, I don't know if Zachary Quinto really is like our current Spock.
No, that's a lot coming from you because you really shallow when it comes to that cast.
Um, yeah, no, I enjoyed that movie mostly for reasons that had nothing to do with Star Trek.
It's really not a Star Trek movie. It's more of a Star Wars movie, if we're being honest.
It's
Which
a
makes
Star Trek themed adventure story.
yeah, like it's weird because he got Star Wars because of Star Trek. Like what, man, he should direct a Star Wars movie, but then he directs a Star Wars movie and he's just kind of like maybe he should start with Star Trek. But but yeah, so like I don't know. Like I understand like why they're doing it this way. Like Quinto got other things going on. He probably, from my understanding, he's probably gonna be like third fiddle on this show, and Quinto is not to be third fiddle on somebody's show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I think it's Pike. His number one is Rebecca Romaine Stamos, which is awesome, and then
Woo!
and then it's Spock. Spock is the science officer, but he's not the number one, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, because I haven't seen it, so is Rebecca Romaine playing the same number one that's in the cage?
Yeah. She's supposed to be.
Oh, that's awesome. Which is
Yeah.
that's Gene Roddenberry's wife, correct?
Yes, and also Luxana Troy.
Excuse me. Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, I'm
And the
sorry.
computer.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the computer. Yes, that's you know what that's a good form of nepotism right there. That's the best form of nepotism.
Yes. Yes. And also, like, I mean, at some point, she deserves more Star Trek credit than Jean does, but
Oh, don't say that now. I mean, but yeah, I don't,
things succeeded despite
Despite
Jean.
Gene, yeah,
Yeah.
especially with the next generation, you read about the stuff on the next generation, and you just kind of like, not that it's good that he died. I would never say that, but it's like maybe it's good that they kind of like wrangled it away from him a bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because he had dudes walking around in skirts. He had some far out ideas. Not just that. Like that's actually the milder of that. Like he didn't even like Patrick Stewart at first, correct?
Right.
Because he was bald.
Um. No. So the story goes that Patrick Stewart auditioned wearing a really stupid wig, and that they didn't like the wig, and he was like, "But I'm bald." And then the response was someone in the development, maybe it was Gene Roddenberry, was like, "That's fine," like, or someone said, "Oh, hey, like, wouldn't they have a cure for baldness in the future?" And Gene Roddenberry or whoever was involved and said, "No, in the future we would stop caring that people went bald
Ah,
because
ah.
we would be like accepting." So it's supposed to be, like a no, it's supposed to be more of like a moral parable. I don't even know if it really actually happened.
My favorite scene with was it Lasana Troy is not
Yeah.
even her in it. It's the episode where she's trying to bang Picard. The whole episode, which honestly I feel like that was most episodes she was in. But like it's the one where she's like entering like a second.
Yeah.
What did Donna say? Like a second version of womanhood where all she wanted is sex and like
Yeah, it's like a yeah, it's like a weird like menopause thing.
yeah, and like and as she's telling Riker and
Yeah, yeah, and
Picard this and Riker's face, man.
yeah.
like it's funny because I don't even know if it's on purpose, but it's like you didn't tell me that. He's like, well, I would have eventually, and then like he thinks about it, then he just get like this shit eating grin on his face. It just
Um,
I love
yeah,
Jonathan Frakes.
I just rewatched it, and I think the actual line is that Riker's trying to help Troy explain it, and he's like, "Yeah, Troy told me their sex drives can increase by like 2 to 3, or they'll be 2 to 3 times." And she goes, "Actually, it's like 5 to 6." And he's like, "Well, you didn't tell me that." And she's like, "I didn't want to scare you." And then he gets like the shit eating grin, where he's like, "Hey."
Yeah, it's just a realization, like, oh, I just,
Yeah.
you know, did you see all of Picard? I haven't seen Picard yet. Have you seen it?
I haven't watched any of it. I'm mostly all of this is motivated by just kind of I'm on strike against CBS All Access.
Why are you on strike on CBS All Access?
um, I I was actually a very, very early adopter. We tried to use the CBS streaming app to finish watching Person of Interest, and it was complete crap. And I think it's super rude for them to have this sort of content this difficult to find. And I'm more willing to just pay and actually buy like the DVDs later
Right, right.
than let them string me out forever on the episodes. So like I bought the first season of Discovery on DVD for cheaper than it would have cost to pay for CBS All Access for the
Mm,
whole show.
okay. I know that the him and Donna Troy are in there,
Yeah.
and I know it's like a different show and it's a more serious tone.
Hmm.
But it'd be great if they touched on that. Like, you just Picard come visit them and he's just running from her. Like he's just sweating profusely. Like, that'd be great. But yeah, so I think that ends our Trek talk. You know, we
On that
don't
note,
yeah, it's weird. We go on more tangents about Star Trek than we ever do about Star Wars.
um, yeah,
Today we are talking Miniature Jesus, written and drawn by Ted McKeever. It is a 2013 comic consisting of 138 pages. It is published by Shadowland Comics, which is like
Shadow Line.
Shadowline Comics, which is now it says Image, so I guess Image picked it up afterwards. I'm
No, no,
assuming.
no. It was a sub imprint of Image. So he sold it to Image, and they were like, we can't quite put this out as an Image book, and so they made an entire imprint like they did for the Umbrella Academy guy, Gerard Way.
Oh, time out. They can release this as an Image book. When did Image
They
start? When did Image start being scared of content?
It wasn't necessarily that they were scared of content, but that they just thought that it would like I don't know for whatever reason. But the other thing is you have to realize that there are other Shadowline books.
Okay.
And the idea is like one of the reasons that I corrected you on it is that I would actually everything I ever picked up that was Shadowline was great.
All right.
So I would actually just blanket say read anything that was in like the 2 or 3 year period of time where Shadowline was a thing. All of it was good.
Gotcha. Okay. So the synopsis reads: critically acclaimed writer slash artist Ted McKeever returns to the theater of the bizarre as a small town pastor thinks that the 8-inch Jesus that descended from a cross on the church wall is the work of the devil. Meanwhile, Chomsky, our recovering alcoholic, is about to find out that the constant barrage of screaming voices in his head are not all imaginary. So, Amanda, Miniature Jesus,
Yep.
Written and drawn by Ted McKeever. You say you reviewed this for the Outhouse, I believe.
I did. This was a very bright spot in, I guess, what you would call my career there. It was because we didn't really know who he was, and we didn't know what this shadow line imprint thing was. I didn't have to fight anyone else for it. Uh, Most of the time, if we got a book for review from Image, this was, I was writing whatever. I was working with the Outhouse back during sort of like the Image sci-fi renaissance. So normally, if a book came through from Image, we were all like, "Oh my gosh, I have to read this!" Like fighting each other to review it. Um, so this was a pleasant surprise um, that it was so good.
Okay, so you think it's good. So, man, what exactly about Miniature Jesus do you like? Like, what are like, give me some thoughts.
Okay, the reason that I'm so into this book is that it's such a good example of the type of story and the storytelling strategy that kind of only works for comics.
Mm-hmm.
This wouldn't really work as like a TV show or something.
Right.
Um, so, and it has to do with the fact that it's kind of it's kind of very abstract what's going on. It's not really clear what's really happening and what he's imagining, which things are supposed, like which things are actually supernatural, which things aren't. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of like really weird, interesting transitions. Um, there's a lot of really interesting stuff with the art where the the same image might have like two or three different meanings, or like the line from one thing connects into the line from the other. Um, it's really, really, really strongly using like playing to the strengths of what comic books can be. Um, and I mean, also it was just like a really kind of immersive experience. I wouldn't necessarily call it enjoyable, but
Yeah, yeah. So, I like it,
hmm
but I don't think I love it. I think the main reason is, and like this just might be a me thing,
hmm
it's not really subtle. And like I feel like this type of like it's okay for things not to be subtle. Like I would never say like what I'm saying, like something is not good because it's not subtle. But I feel like this type of story works sort of kind of better than allegory, instead of it being like so front facing. Like he's an alcoholic, right? And he's called alcoholic very many times by his demons, and I'm just like that's a little not hokey, but I don't know if I like it being like that, like overt.
I was gonna say, if it's so overt, then tell me what happens.
Tell you what happens. Well, no, what I'm saying is about his underlying problems, right? You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
so I mean, it's the alcoholism is sort of like the premise of the whole story.
Right.
Um, I mean, I think that the interesting part comes from like the array of demons that he has
Mm.
and how they appear to him and how they connect to what may really be happening.
Right. Right. Now, the actual demons are fine, but like for them just to say, "Oh, I'm your alcoholism," or "I'm your this," or "I'm your that," I was like, that's kind of hitting the nail over the head. Now, with that being said, I think the art is beautiful for it being black and white. I think the characters are compelling, especially the preacher. I think the preacher is actually more like entertaining than Chomsky actually is. Entertaining is the wrong word, but like I really like the preacher in this. You know what I'm saying? I I kind of had a problem with the mother being killed, if she was actually killed or not. But like since everything is taken so literal, like it's actually happening, I'm assuming she was actually murdered.
You think so?
I don't know.
See, this is what I'm getting at. Is you're like there. It's not subtle, and I'm like, dude, I have no idea. My guess was that that was like kind of more like symbolic of something that happens.
Mm.
That may have even been a woman that he had a relationship with, and that it was showing how he destroyed that relationship, not that she was actually dead.
Right. But you see, even that, right? You're right. It might be symbolic. And when I say like nail over the head, I don't mean like those parts. I mean like the fact, oh, she got taken over. She was torn in half by the demon of addiction. You don't need to call it the demon of addiction. You could.
Well, okay, so I guess the problem, I guess it seems like all you're saying is that the book is only about alcoholism and recovery,
Well, no, well, I know it's.
and that you wish it was like that was like within another story that was going on.
I I guess. I mean, no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like it could. You could keep the same story without actually calling it by its names of what it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just it feels like McKeever himself was trying to work through something in this. And like I said, it's a minor complaint, but it's something that I think because usually in these type of stories, like, you know, we like take Sandman for instance, right? We read 10 volumes of Sandman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sandman is trippy, is freaking trippy, right? And but Sandman does this thing where even though it's so damn trippy, it's talking about other things without actually saying it, right? Like no one ever says Morpheus is depressed, but clearly he's depressed, right? No one says like, you know, Sandman.
I think they do literally say that he's depressed at some point.
Do they? I do not remember
Yeah.
this.
Like in dialogue, I believe this comes up multiple times. Like there are pages where characters talk about like all of the different ways that they know that he's, you know, not himself or in despair or I mean like it's raining in the dreaming at some point. Like that's not um I I was going to say I think that I can agree with you that this is a very one note idea, but that knowing that it's only one volume of this makes me tolerate that better.
Okay.
If this were to go on, I would be like, oh my God, I can't read any more of like, oh no, I'm an alcoholic. Boo hoo. It's so hard. I'm like, yes, it's hard. I get it. Draw more disgusting things to show me how much you hate yourself. Like, fine. But knowing that it's a one shot, that you just read this in, I mean, like less than an hour, it's fast.
Yes, it's very fast. I was worried because you know we had to do this show last minute that I wasn't gonna have enough time, and I think I was done in maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, that is a one shot, one idea executed pretty well. You know, maybe not subtle, but you know, the sort of thing you could wait a couple of years and reread it and be like, oh yeah, I enjoy this again. There's enough to reread it occasionally. So yeah, I'll agree that if this were longer, I would also be disappointed that it was thematically one note.
Yeah, and again, this is like I said, I feel like it's kind of thematically one note and kind of overt, but like these honestly are minor quibbles of mine. Overall, I really do like it, except for the black mother getting ripped apart. But that's just on me. Like there's only one woman in this story, and she gets torn asunder. You know what I'm saying? There's one woman, she's black, and she gets torn asunder. You know what I'm saying? And like
I actually wanted to ask you what you interpreted the race of the other characters to be.
I thought Chomsky might have been black until he took off his hood because he looked like he could have been black. The preacher is definitely black and the little boy is definitely black. So I assume what the mother looks kind of black, but like the preacher is definitely black because you know that's a look. The old black preacher is a tradition. You know what I'm saying within most literature or most fiction, you know what I'm saying? And like the little boy looked black
yeah, and
to
he's
me.
the preacher's almost enough of a caricature for it to be sort of questionable whether he's like a real character or whether he's kind of like, you know, the symbolic of like all the preachers he's ever met.
Right, right. Well, you know what? I would agree almost if Miniature Jesus didn't go over there and help him at the end.
Yeah.
Like I think that's pretty I think that's pretty clear that preacher is actually like a character. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That like Miniature Jesus wasn't even there for Chomsky, at all.
Yeah.
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 By the way, just a quick aside, anybody who's been listening to this show long enough know that like I used to put like copyrighted music at the beginning, but YouTube didn't like that, and a lot of other places we put didn't like that, so I had to stop. Right.
Mm.
But as an exercise, sometimes I still think about, oh, if I could, what music would I put at the beginning of this if I still could?
Depeche Mode.
Yes, yes. I'm
Yeah,
so
that's what I assumed.
yeah. I'm so. I mean, if there's any episode that needs this song at the beginning, that needs that song at the beginning, is this one, and I'm upset that I can't pick Personal Jesus at the beginning of and end of this episode. Like it bothered me the whole time I was reading. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the car driving, I'm sighing, I'm listening to the song, and I'm just sighing to myself like, damn it. But yes, yeah, I'm really upset that I can't put Personal Jesus in this. So, what do you think of these? What do you think of Chomsky, right?
I mean, he's he's sort of he's sort of a everyman point of view character. And I mean, I think that's important so you can relate to him, that you don't get too many details of who he is. Um, I also can relate to when you have when you have something really big going on in your life, it kind of becomes your identity and you kind of lose who you really are. Like when I quit my job last fall, for that entire month, in every conversation, in every interaction I had with people, I was defined as the person who just quit their job. And that was like all anybody wanted to talk to me about. And I was so bored, and it like messed with my head a little bit, just from that being that all that was going on. Um, so I think that we're getting a little bit of that through his character, that he's sort of like at a point in his life where he's only defined by this struggle, and
Right.
sort of like his feelings about the struggle and his feelings about the struggle. Um, with, I mean, like the only other detail on there being that uh, he that he's carrying around $50 bills, but also is like wearing shitty, poor clothes, and is the type of guy that a cop might get in a fight with. So, otherwise, I mean, like, I don't really know that person in my personal life.
Right, right, right. I mean, like honestly, I think the dead cat has more personality than Chomsky.
Yes, yes,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. The dead cat is the higher power, the pussy power.
The pussy power. You said it, I didn't. So,
Working together, that's what teamwork's for.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, like, it's funny about that. Like, I would, like, you see, I would almost follow you on all this being like some type of allegory. But, like, in my opinion, once the cat is having a conversation with miniature Jesus away from Chomsky and the fat demon cop,
Hmm.
to me, that signifies that this is actually literal.
Okay.
Because he's not there for that conversation, right? And again, that may not be true, but like narrative have taught me that that's usually like a clue. But
Okay.
also people have also taught me that sometimes they just don't follow the rules.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I would even go so far as to say that like the preacher might not even be a separate character, that could just be part of his psyche.
Right, right. So
So like two aspects of his struggle talking to each other could just be, you know, symbolic of him thinking too hard about something, or you're right, it could be that there's actually a dead cat talking to a tiny living miniature Jesus statue with one arm.
So you know what? Let's follow that thread for a second of you saying all this just might be in his head, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
little boy could also be him, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
So it was funny. The little boy has a line that I kind of wrote, not necessarily wrote with my eye, where he said, "Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be doing mama, but I just like to listen about God." I don't know no little kid that just wants to sit in church and listen to listen to people talk about God. Like, but
Uh,
I thought that was very interesting, though. I did think that was very like a very interesting like if you take this all this being in his head, right? Maybe at one point he wanted to be a preacher his damn self,
mm-hmm.
and maybe he has these demons that stop that. Maybe.
I
And
mean, keep going.
no,
You're on a
no,
roll.
yeah, I'm on the road, but no, yeah, like maybe you know what I'm saying. The preacher man is what he wants to be at some point, and the little kid is like maybe the kid is who he was, and the preacher is who he wants to be. He wants to be saved by Jesus, and he's not right now, but he wants to be because he always had a thing for religion. If we're going off the opinion that, like, you know what I'm saying, this is all in his head.
Um, well, he also talks a little bit about, God actually shows up,
Yes.
and God is a fetus.
Yes.
And Chomsky's interpretation of this is sort of the idea that, like, the only time that you're really in the image of God is like the second you're born. And then once the world gets a hold of you, you're not really divine anymore.
Right.
That it's not really possible to live in this world and to remain a believer or to,
Be
um,
clean of sin.
right. So maybe the kid who would rather listen to someone talk about God than do his homework is kind of another idea of like innocence.
Mm.
And also maybe the alcoholic is thinking back to like, when was the last time that I didn't suck as a person?
Right.
Kind of romanticizing, maybe I could go back and be that kid that just believes in God and then isn't an addict anymore. Because that's the main conflict in here, is that AA tells people that the only way you can become sober is to have faith in a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that the higher power doesn't have to be God, but like it has to be God.
Right.
And so, he's kind of struggling with like, can he really do that if he doesn't believe?
Mm-hmm.
Like what does that look like for someone who doesn't go to church anymore?
Right. Right. Okay. So, you know what, Amanda? I think that's a good stopping point. I think that was, I think we explained it, especially you explained this about as well as we can. I do like it. So, Amanda, would you recommend this?
Yes, absolutely. And like I said a little earlier, everything I found that had shadow line on the spine was good.
All right. And I would definitely recommend it, despite my quibbles about it being subtle. I definitely really did enjoy this book, so I definitely would give it to somebody. I don't know, my friends would particularly like it, but they're a bunch of heathens. But I think if you want to read something different, if you're not into superhero comics, I definitely think this is a very good choice.
Oh, this is a really good one to throw at that coworker who's like, comic books are for kids.
Right. Exactly. So, Amanda, if people want to talk to us about their own personal Jesus, what could they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. They can email us, comicbookclub52@gmail.com. And we are on Facebook as the Comic Book Club. And we are also both personally on social media sometimes, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If I ever left my house, maybe you could find me, downtown.
Downtown. Wait. Oh, sorry. So I just stopped your whole. I'm sorry. So Amanda, what are we reading in a couple of weeks?
So yeah, I had my original notes, and then I had some updated notes. Let me see. Okay. So the last thing that I had written down was that we were going to maybe look at Wonder Woman.
Oh,
because
no.
originally Wonder Woman was going to be coming out soon, the movie.
Right.
And then I didn't have updated notes for June. I had updated notes for July.
Oh, okay. So June. Well, okay. My bad. So Amanda, in a couple of weeks, we are reading the classic X-Men story, God Loves, Man Kills, written by Chris Claremont with art by Brent Anderson.
Cool.
Yeah, this believe it or not is what X-Men 2 is loosely based on. And it's even nuts to think about because that's such a big, heavy action movie, and God Loves, Man Kill as well not.
Okay.
So this I think this will be pretty interesting. Is this our first X-Men story for the show? Have you read X-Men?
No, we did Phoenix.
I knew that. Please forgive me. You know what?
I mean, but Phoenix is so good, it barely feels like X-Men.
What the hell does that mean? Hold up.
I don't know. I'm just trying to.
You want to fight? You want to fight? No. How dare you say X-Men is always good? Okay, that's also a lie. But but X-Men is more good than it's not. But yeah, I can't wait to read this with you. I can't wait to get your take on it. But yeah, that's what we're reading in a couple of weeks. God Loves, Man Kills by Chris Claremont. So Amanda, with that, I think we can go. I think we can go back into our little shelter holes for a couple of weeks.
Back to our bat cave.
Back to our bat cave. All right. So I am Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out.